Mahendra Srivastava, Additional Chief Secretary, Tourism and Civil Aviation, Government of Sikkim. We also have with us Mr. Pinso Gyatso, General Secretary, Homestay Association of Sikkim. Please welcome Dr. S. Anbalagan, Chief Executive Officer, Sikkim Organic Farming Development Agency, Department of Agriculture, Government of Sikkim. Please also welcome Dr. A.H. Khan, Senior Vice President, Corporate Relations India, Regulatory Affairs and Corporate Social Responsibility, Sun Pharmaceutical Industries Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Anurag Khera, Group Vice President and Head Corporate Affairs, Glenmark Pharmaceuticals Limited. Please welcome Dr. Manoj Mittal, Co-founder and Chief Executive Officer, Vedant Cure Healthcare LLP. We also have with us Mr. Jayanta Das, Area Director, Northeast Kathmandu, Bhutan and Darjeeling, and General Manager, Vivanka Guwahati, the Indian Hotels Company Limited. And finally, we have with us Ms. Shraddha Sharma, Member, Confederation of Indian Industry, Northeast Council. Let's all welcome them. Thank you. The involvement of such a rich panel of prominent business leaders and senior government officials provides adequate expertise and legitimacy to express views of the business community and government. Thank you all very much for joining us today. I humbly request the speakers to keep your presentation brief as we are running behind schedule. As we start the session, may I invite Mr. Karma R. Bompo, Secretary, Commerce and Industries, Government of Sikkim, to deliver the welcome address and share details of the investment opportunities in Sikkim with us.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, heads of department, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it gives great pleasure to invite you all to this plenary session where we'll discuss opportunities for multilateral business partnerships in tourism, hospitality, pharmaceuticals, organic farming, and other sectors which have been not mentioned. I would also like to express gratitude to the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji for selecting Sikkim for having a B20 as well as S20 engagement meeting. And also my gratitude to the Honorable Chief Minister of Sikkim for driving this particular engagement meeting. And also most of the context has already been said by the Honorable Chief Minister as well as the respected Chief Secretary of India. We will just be expanding on few of the points. I would also like to sincerely thank the CII who are the main drivers behind this B20 engagement meeting. They have set out that they want to have inclusive recommendations to G20 under the theme of race, responsible, accelerated, innovative, sustainable and equitable business. As you know, I think Sikkim is at the forefront of sustainable development with minimum degradation to environment. So I feel that this engagement meeting will be a very fruitful one. My colleagues on the dais as well as the other speakers will be mainly focusing on the core sectors. I will, due to the paucity of time, I will just concentrate on those sectors where Sikkim has immense potential but has not been covered. So without wasting much time and welcoming all delegates, especially from other parts of the country as well as many delegates from abroad, I would like to just present you a brief on the investment opportunities which are available in Sikkim. So may I have the presentation, please? So before going, I would like to just say a few things about the small state and beautiful state of Sikkim. We have a very small population of 6 lakhs. As an already outlined, our GSDP is about 4,72,000. Literacy rate closing to 97%. We have a small area of 7096 square kilometers. We have major towns like Gangtok, Namchi, Pakyong, Gezing, Soring, and Mungan. We have 2 airports, the nearest airports. One is the Pakyong airport where the delegates have landed yesterday. And we have the other airport, which is Bagdogra, which is about 2.5 hours from Gangtok. The nearest railhead is New Jalpaiguri. We'll be having a railhead soon, which is in Majita, which is proposed to be finished by December of 2024. And national highways, I would also like to say that under the current dispensation, we have a huge number of national highways which are currently being constructed in Sikkim. Before outlining what are the investment opportunities, I would like to say a few brief background on the Sikkim Industrial Development and Investment Vision. This vision is a work in progress. We are still working on the policy, and B20 has come at the right time where we can still refine what is the investment vision. As has already been said by the Honorable Chief Minister, we want to promote green industries because we have a greater role in the sense that we have a very rich biodiversity to take care. So the government of Sikkim has consciously made the decision saying that only green industries will be promoted. We have again sustainability goals because we want our investments to be sustainable so that we meet all the commitments as a global family. One of the major USPs of Sikkim is peace and good governance. Sikkim has never had any trouble with violence, and we have no history of any violence till date. So the investments that you make will be free of any geopolitical risk. We want to concentrate on high value because due to the sheer size, since we are a very small size, we have to go for high value products. And lastly, all our investments should be tailored towards making the lives of people better. So most of the investments, we want to ensure that there is a local participation of people and everyone is well off. I would now like to concentrate on some of the key sectors where we have a very good competitive advantage. As you know, India's mission is 500 gigawatts of clean energy by 2030. So under that, India has made a commitment under the Paris Climate Change Agreement. We have to reduce the emission intensity by 1/3. We have to ensure that at least 40% of the electric power comes from renewable energy sources. We have set an ambitious target of 500 gigawatts by 2030, and in this, solar is going to play a major role. But in the context of Sikkim, we would like to focus on hydro, especially small hydro, because that is where we have a big competitive advantage. India is already emerged as a global leader in renewable energy. We are the fourth in the country in terms of wind energy capacity, fourth in terms of solar energy, and third in renewable energy capacity. Now, before going, we would like to see that there are a lot of disruptions, especially in clean energy. A lot of technological advancements are happening. Consumers are not only customers, they have become prosumers, they are producing. We have distributed energy generation. We are transitioning to electric vehicles. More analytics coming into cleaner energy. And then consumers also, they are equipped with latest technologies where we have smart metering, net metering, all these kind of innovations are currently happening. So in this context, I would like to explain the hydro energy potential of Sikkim. We have two major river basins. One is Tista and Rangit. We have a potential of about 8,000 megawatt. Till date, we have commissioned 2,321 megawatt. The work in progress is about 1,037 megawatt is work in progress. We had a potential investment of about 2,000 megawatt. Small hydro, we have not carried a study, but I think we are estimating on the lower side. We say that we have a potential of more than 1,000 megawatt, especially in small hydro. And if you look at the hydropower side, where exactly, what vision do we have? We have a vision to be the leader in small and micro hydro in the country for sustainable development and also meeting the clean energy requirements of the country. What are the key enablers? One of the key enablers is we have a very good precipitation in the sense that out of 365 days, 180 days we get precipitation. If you look at the regions which get very high precipitation, it covers more than 60 to 70% of those areas. They have very good potential. So we can say we do tourism during the dry season and we do hydro during the rain season. So that way I think we have an additional sector where we can de-risk from the tourism sector. So this is again an important sector where we are looking at investments. So the other thing is, one of the major enabling factors that has happened in Sikkim is that now we have got a backbone. We have got a transmission backbone which has been funded by the government of India, and due to this transmission backbone, we can now evacuate any power which has been generated. It is connected to the national grid, so the backbone is ready. We just need to lay the nerves. The last mile connectivity is where currently the power department is working on. So once we have the last mile connectivity, then it opens the entire sector to various entrepreneurs to put up the generating stations. And this has potential for decentralized generation. We want to go for open access for power generators, and the power department is also actively undertaking power sector reforms where we will enable entrepreneurs to tap into this particular potential. And this is very important because it meets the clean energy obligations and sustainable development commitments. So what support in hydropower sector we can provide from the state government? We can give leasehold land for manufacturing of power and hydraulic equipment. Basically, we want to encourage R&D in this particular small hydro because this has immense potential. The state has a good topography, then we have a good water supply. So in hydro, it is basically the amount of water as well as the height. So both of this is like where we have a good competitive advantage. And we are encouraging, especially R&D institutes to do more research and development, especially in generating small turbines, easier to install turbines, easier to hook it onto the power transmission system, net metering, net billing, all the kind remote telemetrics. So all these sectors can come into the state. We encourage design consultancy firms to set up so that our entrepreneurs can take advantage of the immense potential which is there in hydroelectricity. So we are ready to offer land, we are ready to offer office space for design consultancy services. We have a good qualified manpower. We have many technical institutions like SMIT, NIT, CCIT. So all these where a lot of passwords can be possible, people who can be directly employed in the hydroelectric sector. As far as the ease of business is concerned, we are now working towards providing a single window clearance, time-bound clearance, and having a dedicated support staff for onboarding especially the startups as well as the industry into tapping the potential of this sector. As far as the fiscal incentives are concerned, we are now waiting for especially the DPIIT to give us the Northeast Industrial Development Policy. And one recommendation that we would make is in terms of cleaner energy, I think they should be more supportive and more subsidy, especially in developing, because we are meeting one of the most important climate change targets. As far as the state government subsidies are concerned, we are working on providing lease rent subsidy, power subsidy, and having some stamp duty subsidies. The potential areas, as I have already told, is like in turbine manufacturing, power equipment manufacturing, design consultancy, research and development institute building around hydropower. And why we are promoting Sikkim is that we are the gateway to Northeast India. We have a huge potential. Not only in Sikkim, the entire Northeast has a huge hydroelectric potential. We have a huge hydroelectric potential of our neighboring states, especially Bhutan, Nepal. And lastly, if we provide a conducive environment, maybe I think this sector is ripe to be harnessed because it has not been tapped. So the other sector that we want to focus in is to create renewable cities, especially since we have renewable power. Now we want to have ensure that our cities are also well planned. We want our city to be entirely powered by 100% renewable energy. We want to provide leadership in having renewable energy and sustainable development solutions. UDHD is working on a proposal for Greater Gangtok Renewable City. So this city is that they are already working on the master plan. So we want to develop the satellite areas, especially Rangka, Rumtek, Gun, and this has a potential of attracting a lot of investment, not only in infrastructure development. We have potential in real estate, your theme parks, your tourism, hotel, commercial spaces, design parks, industrial parks. And what support we require from multilateral agencies as well as from developed countries is that if they can help us in designing such a city, because I think the state government wants to take the path towards having cities which are more resilient to climate change, which are more suitable in the sense that which are more future ready, rather than undoing most of the damages, we want to ensure that we plan such cities so that they're more resilient. The other important area where we are now focusing is having mountainous mobility solutions, as has been already outlined by the Honorable Chief Minister, that we have already commissioned one ropeway, newly commissioned ropeway in Badidunga. So, given the mountainous geography, this is the hello. So, given the mountainous geography, we feel that this is one of the most economically sustainable alternate transport mediums, especially in mountainous regions. This will help us connect all our remote areas in the state with the minimum degradation to the environment. So, and this will also promote sustainable tourism livelihood, and also for urban mobility. This is one of the, I think, enablers for creating better urban mobility. So the advantages are that we want to promote Sikkim as a cable car manufacturing hub in the country. So we invite investment, especially in setting up their fabrication units or assembly units in the state. So again, the investment policies which we are already working on, we will make it much more lucrative to such manufacturers who are willing to set up in the state. And I would like to say that why we want to go into newer forms of mobility is that nowadays, I think, as you know, transportation has become more of a service. So in future, as more and more we transition to electrical vehicles and newer mediums of mobility, so I think cable car systems in the mountainous regions make sense because they are more ecologically resilient to disasters. Because if we build roads, maybe the initial cost is low, but the cost to maintain, especially then during the rainy season, is very high. And as you know, what our advantage is in the hydro, the same precipitation becomes a disadvantage for the mobility. So we have to transition to newer types of mobility. So Urban Development Department is already working on the Gantok urban cable system. We are now, I think, actively working with DPIIT and other funding agencies to try to fund this particular mobility solution. They propose to link the entire Gantok through a network of cable cars. This is very important because it will reduce not only the transportation time, it will reduce a lot of carbon energy because we can power this entirely through renewable energy. So, and we need not be dependent on fossil fuels. And the other important aspect that we want to also focus on the newer technologies is the electrical vehicle ecosystem, because as more and more industries are now transitioning to electrical vehicles, we would like to invite proposals from various countries as well as from various companies to help us achieve this particular thing. And Sikkim can be a showcase for a complete transition to electrical vehicle because we have a smaller population, we have a much manageable vehicle fleet, and we can be first in the country to transition to EVs. So this is again one sector that we are actively considering, and we are trying to see how we can encourage manufacturers, especially in electrical vehicle components. We can also electrical vehicle charging. We don't want, we want to generate that ecosystem, especially given the incentives which are being promoted by DPIIT and given the incentives which are around having newer mobility solutions. I think Startup 20 also, we want to take the backing and help us, guide us in how we can promote this kind of industries in Sikkim. The other sector where we have a very, very good competitive advantage is in the creative sector. We want to be the design capital of India. Why is that possible? Because we have a very rich talent pool of creative professionals. As you go around Gantok, you will get enough idea that the amount of creative potential ready to explode. You can see in the beautiful way in which the entire G20 things were designed. So that shows the amount of potential that the people of the state have, especially in terms of design. We have a very rich culture and art. We have a rich talent pool of IT and ITS professionals. Which type of industries are suitable? We want industries, especially in industrial product design, automotive design, then we have animation, VFX, all film industries, media industries. These have a lot of scope, especially in setting up in Sikkim. And what are the enablers? We are in the process of making a proposal for setting up a design park and we want to give space to any investors wishing to set up in the state of Sikkim. So, as has been already outlined in a lot of communications, climate change and biotechnology. Why Sikkim? Because we have the Kanchenjunga National Biosphere Reserve, which is the world's 31st biodiversity hotspots. It has a very rich biodiversity. We have 5,000 species of flowering plants, 550 orchids. We have a lot of species of birds, snow leopards, endangered animals. And due to climate change, this region has become very vulnerable in the sense that there is an effect on glaciers, there is a potential effect on plants. The potential areas of engagement where we want to have, especially G2G, is we need to save it, and it's a collective responsibility. It is not the responsibility only of the state. We encourage the central government, we encourage the multilateral, even the multilateral organizations as well as multi-government organizations to help us save this, because this has a rich gene bank, and if we don't initiate any measures to protect this, because as a developing country, we have limited resources where we can safeguard the particular biodiversity. So we would like to have partnerships with other developed nations to help us conserve this, especially in establishing research and development, especially in understanding the risk, because documentation right from conservation, this requires a lot of effort, and we require that kind of support. We want to set up R&D institutes in Sikkim. We want to set up institutes in Sikkim, especially in the conservation of this particular biodiversity hotspot, because once it is lost, it is the humanity, it will lose it forever. So please, I think this can be an important policy initiative of this particular forum, where we invite your support in order to conserve our rich biodiversity. So the other sector that has again immense potential is the handloom, handicraft and textile sector. Why? Because we have a very vibrant cottage industry. This cottage industry provides direct employment to the artisans. We have 5 major handloom and weaving customers clusters. We have a good and well-trained artisans. The products that we produce currently are woolen carpets, hanga painting, wood furniture, bamboo products. The export potential is there, especially to developed markets where they can generate higher remuneration. And in this also, what collaboration we can have is we are now looking at newer technology to make it less labor intensive, and so that this cost we can manage. So as I have already outlined, the health and wellness industry is again an important sector. It has been covered in detail in the presentation of the respective Chief Secretary. We are looking at having investment, especially in hospitals and associated industries, especially in medical industry. We have a huge talent pool in the sense that many youths can be trained in hospital and wellness, and we can leverage tourism and hospitality, because these seems to be complementary industries. And pharma industry, I will just give an overview. The details will be covered by the representatives from the pharma industry. We have currently more than 50 pharma companies who have set up. So this has been possible due to a conducive policy environment, and we still want to promote this particular sector. So lastly, in order to build an enabling investment environment, we now have to have a very good education system. So in this also, we would like to enable government to government collaboration. We want to work with various partners so that we can drive the education towards quality rather than quantity. We have to focus on higher education, especially on climate change, sustainable development, conserving the bioresources of the state, more on creative design, newer technologies like information technology, artificial intelligence, medical and healthcare, and especially also develop the management and business development in our students. Primary education again is the focus of both the governments, but the government as the center as well as the state. We are looking at more holistic education, and I think in this probably I think through B20, I think if you don't enable a good quality education system, then we will not be able to attract the kind of or the investments will not realize the true potential. So we need more investments in education sector also. So as far as connectivity and infrastructure are concerned, So currently the government of India is giving huge emphasis to the connectivity in the Northeast. We are we are connected through a rail network. The Pakyong airport will be functional soon. We are trying to make it operational throughout the year. There are some improvements which are happening. We want to establish helipads across the state so that we can have sort of heli-tourism. We are in the process of getting connected to the Asian highway through the Act East policy. Various national and state highways are being constructed, and we want to go for other transportation media so that the tourism sector also gets uninterrupted kind of connectivity. So lastly, I would like to say that our policy is concentrated on people. We strongly believe in the sustainable development goals, and we would like to invite not only partnership in industries, but people-to-people partnerships so that we can truly realize the motto of one family, one earth, one future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bongo, for your informative talk on investment opportunities in Sikkim. I once again request the speakers to kindly keep your presentation brief, not more than 10 minutes if possible, as we are already running behind schedule. We have a long list of speakers among the delegates as well. If you have prepared a long presentation, I humbly request you to kindly make it short. Thank you for your understanding. Moving forward with this session, may I now call upon Mr. M.L. Srivastava, Additional Chief Secretary, Tourism and Civil Aviation Department, Government of Sikkim, to share his views on the opportunities in tourism sector.
Very good afternoon to all. Excellencies, Deputy Heads, Consular General, dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, all the esteemed delegates from the G20 countries for this B20 event. Ladies and gentlemen, at the very outset, I thank on the behalf of the Tourism and Civil Aviation Department, the Honorable Chief Minister, the Chief Secretary and the organizers of this event for giving us this opportunity to share the issues, initiatives, plans, policy initiatives and interventions that we have taken in the tourism sector of the state. I am here to give inter alia a general perspective of tourism in Sikkim, its historical legacy, the unique selling points, USPs, the bounties of Mother Nature Sikkim is endowed with, the policy initiatives, investment opportunities in the tourism sector, how state government initiatives are impacting the general masses, creating livelihood opportunities. These issues I will be taking it up. My colleague and friend Mr. Pinsu Gyatsu, he will take up the user's perspective of the tourism in the state. So, this shloka in Sanskrit from Subhashitan, it gives the gist of tourism per se. I will not read it. I will, since most of the issues which we have taken, and I am going to speak out the gist of that, the initiatives particularly, and the opportunities in the tourism sector, most of these issues have been taken up by the respected Chief Minister, sir, and the respected Chief Secretary, and of course to a certain extent my predecessor, previous speaker also. But I will steer you all to a kaleidoscopic view of the tourism sector, tourism scenario, and its perspective in the state. This I will not dwell upon. Basically, the point I am making that projected tourism influx in the state is around 1.8 million this year and subsequently. So, this gives the backdrop of tourism in the country per se, and of course that is giving the advantage and the opportunity for the state of Sikkim also. The expected growth rate of tourism is around 4.3% from 21 to 27, 2021 to 27, and the India's Planning Commission, the Niti Aayog, identified tourism as the second largest provider of employment to low and semi-skilled persons. And annual growth rate of tourism industry in India is predicted to be around 8.8%. So this particularly gives the backdrop of this tourism and the opportunities there. Now I will take as I mentioned to you, that the historical legacy and how we can leverage that in the tourism sector. You know that Sikkim was a monarchy, a country, and that joined the Indian Union in 1975. So this historical legacy is also of vast tourism impact, and it has a tourism element into it. You know that the old Silk Route, also the old trade route with the Tibet was prevailing, and this is also there in this Gangtok district at present. It is also of tourism importance, and 2 to 3 days can take up to traverse this, and there are requisitions for traversing this area, this Silk Route. I mentioned this, I will not dwell upon that. Now the vision of the tourism department, definitely to provide a responsible tourism destination, the tourism sector contributing significantly to the state economy, linked to the opportunities, livelihood opportunities. As the Chief Secretary already had mentioned, that 20% of the population of the state is involved in the tourism sector. Now the strengths, I mentioned about the USPs, so I will not read each one of that. Most of these are already said. And for first fully certified organic state, strong social infrastructure, well-developed physical infrastructure, per capita income one of the highest in the country. So these are the USPs of the state that gives a very sound backing for the growth of the tourism sector in the state. In the state of Sikkim, again, various thematic verticals are there. I will not read, these are populated there. Nature-based tourism, religious tourism, adventure tourism, and rural and cultural tourism. So all the 4 sectors we are working on, and these have very high potential, and the growth in each of these sectors is really phenomenal. The tourism investment policy which we have drafted and submitted, so we are focusing on, of course, ecotourism, as we have all learned and seen that in Sikkim it is a biodiversity hotspot, and various other, it has 1/4 of the biodiversity of the country, biodiversity hotspot of the world per se. Wellness tourism, MICE tourism is another sector where conferences and exhibitions and meetings, for that we have to develop the infrastructure. Here I invite the August presence here that they should invest in this particular area. Now film tourism, as we all know that Sikkim has been declared as the best film destination in the country. Educational tourism, we have a very vast network of universities here and skill universities. So there is a very vast scope of educational tourism also. Caravan tourism is a new concept, and we are building on it, and we are integrating this with the other states, other northeastern states particularly, for development of this caravan tourism. Now I will not go in detail with the tourist footfall. You can see it here, barring the 2 years of the COVID-19. Otherwise, it does around 1.6 million, and the projected growth as this year is around 1.8 million. Now, domestic tourists and foreign tourists, these are depicted there. So we have, there are 3 seasons. So this seasonality of the tourism, we also have to address. So we have to stagger, and as the Chief Secretary mentioned in the morning session, that we have to make the tourists stay longer in the state. That is the objective. So to address that objective, we have to address this seasonality issue that tourists should also be coming in the so-called non-peak seasons also. So as of now, the tourist influx during the mid-seasons or even green seasons, particularly mid-season and peak season, it is almost very high influx. Sikkim natural infograph, I will not dwell upon that. Again, I mentioned that Sikkim has 47.6% of the forest cover, one of the highest in the country, and very wide biodiversity hotspot, the 36 static biodiversity hotspots in the world. It is one of them, Eastern Himalayas, and very vast change in a very short span, from 300 meters to going to 8,600 odd, in a very short span. So that's why there is very strong change of the biogeographical zones. That's why this very high biodiversity is there. So I will again not read everything here. Now these are the four: the state butterfly, state flower, state bird, and the state animal. So Kanchenjunga National Park, again, mixed heritage 2016, only one mixed heritage site in the country, only one, and a major tourist destination. We have developed trekking trails. So this is one of the nature-based tourism, trekking trails to Choka and Jongri trek. So this is in between the Choka is there. Now dancing base camp, Yukson, Guchara trek route. So trekking trails we have developed particularly in the Kanchenjunga National Park. Around 140 kilometers trails have been developed. Outside also 80, 90, 80, 85 kilometers have been developed. So we are taking up new trekking routes, and those have been already identified, and we are working on that. Religious tourism, we all know that Sikkim is part of the Eastern Buddhist Circuit, and very strong presence of the Buddhist community here, followers, and all sects of the Buddhism, they have their followers here and the monasteries there. So you can see, it was mentioned, one of the most important monastery in the world, Rumtek Monastery and others. What makes Buddhist pilgrimage to Sikkim very very special? So it is mentioned here. Again, you have seen major tourist sites, the Samdukchi, the Buddha Park, the Cherry Ring, and the Peleng. So we have a lot of religious infrastructure, and that is leading to this, particularly religious infrastructure. Char Dham in Namchi, major monasteries. Buddha Park I have already mentioned. Namgyal Institute of Tibetan, why I have put it here, that it is propagating Sowa Rigpa. It's a Tibetan medicine, and Sowa Rigpa, the government of India also took it up as an element of the intangible cultural heritage of the UNESCO. So in that sense, it is very important, and NIT is doing research and working in the field of Sowa Rigpa. So sacred lakes, as it is mentioned, the lakes are sacred. Mighty Kanchenjunga, it is guardian deity. Glimpses of monastic dances. Adventure tourism has a lot of potential in the state. Trekking, mountaineering, all these adventure tourism, we have taken it up. We have a national institute here under the Department of Tourism. Paragliding, expeditions. Trekking, I have already mentioned that we are taking up new trekking routes, and these are one of the best trekking routes, I can say that. And if properly advertised and adopted, the tourism in Sikkim will go leaps and bounds. Mountain biking, these are all part of that. Now this rural tourism is very important, rural and homestays. So in fact, we got this feedback that people are preferring to stay in the rural areas, to stay for the homestays rather than staying in the 5-star hotels. Even people prefer that because they come here for that experience. Around 1194 registered homestays are there, and further the numbers will be added. Rich cultural heritage, we have already talked about that, very intermingling of the different cultures, but unique Sikkimese identity they are preserving. So this embraces their diversity and yet preserves their identity. Folk dances, very colorful, very wide, varied, and local cuisines, these are now universalization of the Sikkimese cuisines. You can get momos or these tukpa and these things and anywhere in the world for that matter. Arts and culture, very important area and of high value. The hankas, the handicrafts and habitats. Now, this is the area, opportunities in Sikkim. Round-trip train tourism for Northeast. This is one area because the train connectivity is going to be operational with effect from next year. So, we plan to have one go through the train on the whole Northeast, and we will integrate with the Northeast. Sikkim has one hub destination. Many tourists, even the Government of India scheme of international Udan is there. So we have submitted, voiced our requirement for better connectivity from Bhutan, Pakyong, Nepal, Kathmandu, Pakyong, and further to Dhaka, Pakyong. So once this is done, so the tourists coming to these areas, they can come to Sikkim as one hub destination, move around and then get back. MICE tourism, I have already mentioned. Rural tourism, I have already told upon. Wellness tourism, very strong medical infrastructure is already there, so it can be a catchment. Sikkim will have a catchment in the West Bengal or even nearby countries also. Adventure tourism, I also already mentioned, very wide scope, and we are working on it. And entertainment parks and theme parks, also another area of development. And we are being approached by different developers in this regard. And EV and eco-friendly transport modes of tourist mobility. Our plan is, our aim is carbon neutral tourism also. In the current scenario of the vagaries of climate change and all that. And now I've given you a general idea of the tourism sector, what are our priorities and what we are aiming at. We want to improve the connectivity through heliports and helidromes. All the 6 districts we have already submitted to the Government of India, Ministry of Civil Aviation, that we should have one helidrome in each district. And they will have, multiple connectivity with the Baghdogra and with each other. So, I need not repeat these things. Sikkim is one of the best tourist destinations, acknowledged by various international bodies, one of the 10 best places. 17th out of 52 places by New York Times. Most innovative, unique tourism project, this Siddheshwar Chardham I mentioned earlier. Now, the first fully certified I will not speak upon. It has been already talked about so many times. Now, Sikkim has won more than 30 national tourism awards under different categories, and we recently received this Northeast Tourism Leadership Award and the Best State Campaign Clean India by Ministry of Tourism, Cleanest Hill Station by India Today in 2015. Now, this is one appeal or proposition, I can make it here. It's a very august gathering, representatives from all over the world, and with your intervention, this Sikkim as a prominent potential tourism destination worldwide needs to be factored in and assimilated in the tourism ecosystems of different countries and tourism cohorts. The respected esteemed delegates present here may shoulder this responsibility and fostering forging partnerships in this regard. This truly will make this summit G20 a goodwill 20. Thank you all. Jai Hind.
Thank you for your valuable insights. Now I would like to call upon Mr. Pinto Gyatso, General Secretary, Homestay Association of Sikkim, to share some more insights on the tourism sector in Sikkim.
Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome to esteemed delegates from near and far. Thank you for having me here. My name is Pinto Gyatso. As I've been introduced already, by profession, I'm a co-founder at a travel company called Our Guest, and basically we aggregate homestays and farmstays across the northeastern region of India. So I'm here today to just really quickly talk about the travel industry in Sikkim. I won't get into details. I think a lot has been already spoken. And well, I think I'm trying to look at the journey that we've been in to get to where we are today here in the industry. Some of the challenges that we faced, some of the challenges that of course lie ahead of us. And despite us being considered a fairly mature travel destination, why I still do believe that we are only at the cusp of sustainable travel. So yes, a quick snapshot of tourism in Sikkim. I have some seniors here in the audience. I hope I do justice. So Sikkim tourism, the industry from the 80s and definitely well into the 90s was a fairly niche market. I do believe that there were two main factors that were responsible for people wanting to visit here. Definitely one was culture. When we talk about culture, it was mostly Buddhist and monastic treks experiences. Simply because similar destinations like Sikkim, that is like if you can say Bhutan or Ladakh, were not really available or not easily accessible back then. So it put us in a pretty interesting place. And the other thing being definitely treks. I think high altitude mountain trekking in India was again at a very early stage. So with the opening up of the trek routes of the Kanchenjunga Base Camp Trek, again a very unique product that we had to offer. Of course, today we've moved on a bit more towards the I guess we can just cover that in the later slides a little bit. I'm here today to talk about the opportunities in tourism in Sikkim, and I would like to just keep my discussion on two factors or two sectors. Definitely rural travel, with a particular focus on homestays, and the other being adventure tourism, again a focus on trekking and mountaineering. So let us just dive in straight with homestays. What exactly is a homestay in Sikkim? Basically, we have a couple of rooms to let out. We host, provide accommodation and meals, and you earn a livelihood for hosting. And in return, what it means for the traveler is, of course, you get a very interesting insight into the ethnic culture and the food. Of course, at homestays, we provide a lot of experiences, things like guided walks, nature interpretation, culinary experiences to name a few. Ticket size, I would say that on an average, a homestay in Sikkim would cost you somewhere around 3,500 rupees with the two major meals. So, but as you can see, there is a pretty big range of the kind of accommodation that's available in this sector, from very budget stays to pretty high-end boutique stays. And of course, it goes without saying that homestays is definitely at the heart of promotion today. We have about close to 1,200 homestays registered in the state. So this is where it gets a little interesting. There are some things that we've learned over the time as we've explored the homestay sector. The first thing is that we realize that a large chunk of our visitors in Sikkim are domestic travelers, Indian travelers, and they tend to be in larger groups. And even the local travel agents or the national, let's say national level travel agents tend to send slightly larger groups. And this was a pretty unique problem for us because homestays are small. We have 2 rooms, 4 rooms at the most. So the state government took upon itself to look at a pilot. We started exploring what we call a cluster approach, and definitely a country is the year of the millet, and by the United Nations. I'm happy to say that we've been consuming the fermented form for quite a while here. And of course, it goes without saying, when we talk about homestays, it lies in the heart of our push for sustainable tourism. See, when we talk about accommodation units in Sikkim, a lot of the hotels tend to spring up in places which are very, let's say, touristy or in major hotspots. Homestays, on the other hand, are spread all across the state, especially in rural areas. So they definitely help in dissipating the footfall over a much larger area. That definitely helps, particularly in peak season. So this is a much better model that we've noticed. Of course, it's lesser construction. We are already using existing infrastructure. It's definitely not capital intensive, and that's one of my favorites, that anybody that has a home with extra rooms can let. And yeah, what better way to promote local culture and cuisine, and it is absolutely in line with the UN Sustainable Development Goals today. So a quick jump into what is the opportunity of homestay and the homestay sector today. I read about a report that Airbnb, which most of you know, is probably the largest aggregator of vacation rentals in the world today. Their third quarter earnings for 2022, more than 50% of the earnings actually came from long stays. And it was also from their rural listings, not even from the urban listings. So this was a keen takeaway for us also in the industry here, because this is something that we're looking to improve upon and work a lot more on: work from home, longer stays, and of course we need to work very closely with the government, because infrastructure like data connectivity is extremely important for us. Of course, the obvious lower financial overheads, setting up a homestay and running it is fairly, not as challenging as large units, and of course higher margins, because we don't have salaries or big manpower to pay for. So, and of course, we also did notice everybody was affected in the pandemic. But it was interesting to see that as homestay operators, slightly more resilient to market disruptions. With that, I would like to jump into the second sector that I talked about, which was adventure tourism, and in particular, treks and mountaineering. I think we've all heard about Kanchenjunga. I hope some of you got to see some of it. A quick snapshot. Sikkim, trekking in Sikkim is mostly alpine style, where basically it's an expedition. We carry self-sufficient supplies and porters and pack animals, and usually the preferred trek is usually a round trek or a circular trek. We start from a place and we end up in another place. As of now, we have about 5 peaks that are accessible for expeditions. They're somewhere in the range of 5,000 to 6,500 meters. Then we also have home to the Indian Himalayan Center for Adventure and Ecotourism. So this is essentially a mountaineering institute, very much here in Sikkim, and a great place to train guides as well as aspiring mountaineers. And of course, we have over 50 peaks that are named. And the interesting bit comes, unofficially, there are more than 150 peaks. So all within a very small geography. So therein lies a lot of potential. So speaking on the potential, quick summary, these are the actual figures from the departments: 32 approved trekking trails, close to 300 kilometers in length. And despite all of that, we know that there is only one particular trek, which is the Kanchenjunga base camp trek, that finds mention. And so therein lies, we see that it is highly underused. And of course, like I mentioned, the 150 peaks, more than those, are all in the range of 5,000 to 7,000 meters, which gets quite interesting that this is a high potential for acclimatization peaks. And a quick perspective, the Everest expedition costs around $25,000 to $30,000 per head. A quick picture gallery of treks. And I would like to conclude a quick suggestion and talk on the impact and livelihood generating capability of this particular sector. We talk about the high value and low volume. This slots right into this. It is specialized, obviously, and the natural landscape that everybody has spoken about, biodiversity, this is definitely an unfair advantage, and we would love to take more advantage of this, And we talk about the fringe village benefits. The livelihood generating capability of this sector is immense, because a lot of these areas lie in fringe villages, which do not otherwise come into mainstream travel and tourism, and the income generating possibility for them is extremely high. And quick challenges today, of course, sustainable growth. When we look at the number of figures that we have here, this is going to be a constant challenge. Seasonality, which is always there, because we are a holiday destination. We are not able to service throughout the year. So a lot of the chunk of the visitors come in particular months in the year. Of course, we are fragile young mountains, and when I talk about border areas, I'm sorry I'm rushing a bit because I know we're short on time. When we talk about border areas, there are a lot of permit formalities, not for the customer, but generally for us in the private sector. And these are challenges, and we are working closely with the government, and we are happy to see that we're moving forward. And to conclude, I would like to just talk about certain aspirations, because this is an August gathering here. Firstly, we know that the impact of homestays on livelihood generation is immense. But we would love to collaborate and find partners, if possible, that we can do a baseline study on this to understand what is the actual impact that the homestay movement in Sikkim has been having.
Request you to conclude.
All right, sure, sir. So, well, like I said, I think we're short on time, but that being said, I think the quick concluding points. We know that tourism is the main industry in Sikkim. Everybody benefits from it and everybody is dependent on it. And I would like to conclude also saying that mass tourism is not to be vilified, because we know that this is the main driver of tourism today here in Sikkim. But the idea would be to find a balance between this and the new sectors that I talked about in high value and low impact. And the opportunity clearly lies in the rural sector. We are a small state. We've been really effective in creating some path-breaking stories ahead, and I'm sure we can do that with travel and tourism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gyatso, for your interesting presentation and for speaking within the time frame. May I request the next speaker to kindly speak within 5 to 7 minutes. We are cutting down the time frame given to the speakers from 10 minutes to 5 minutes. Moving on. May I now call upon Dr. S. Anbalagan, Chief Executive Officer, Sikkim Organic Farming Development Agency, Department of Agriculture, Government of Sikkim, to share his views on organic farming.
Good afternoon to all of you. Even before this meeting, when I was given this slot of speaking on organic farming, I was told I just have 10 minutes. So it is really difficult to speak on something that spans over more than 2 decades. So I would start with this. So I would like to skip whatever happened over 2 decades, and the first statement is where I would like to start. Currently, we are the first and only organic farming state, certified organic farming state, and it is the only contiguous area in the world. No other state has such an area which is contiguous. There are states in the country which have 10 times more organic area, but they are not contiguous. So this is an advantage, and the organic integrity lies in Sikkim. And we have certified our land as per the NPOP standards, which has equivalency with the European standards. And in Sikkim, we have almost all the crops that can be grown. You name it, you have it. From cereals to pulses to spices, fruits, vegetables, it can be grown. But the issue is we do have very little area under each of these commodities. So this is an issue, but we have plans to overcome this, and that's what I'm going to discuss. Okay. So after having achieved the organic farming status, we did introspect, and we wanted to improve the livelihoods of the farmers. Of course, conservation of biodiversity was one of the objects. But on the other side, we also looked into the livelihoods of the farmers. And in simple terms, very simple terms, we wanted our farmers to produce, and we wanted those commodities to reach the markets. So this is what we are to deal with. So after the analysis, what we found was over the past 20 years, the organic farming movement started in the year 2003, and currently we are on a platform where we can catapult ourselves into the global market. So what we found was that we were concentrating more on the production side policies and left the post-harvest management or the marketing side policies at the periphery. Again, after the introspection, we also found ourselves in deep trouble because our area is very limited. Extensive agriculture is not possible, which means we cannot bring more area under cultivation. Whatever area we have, we need to either improve the productivity or improve the production and productivity. This is the only way we have to go about. The other way is add value to whatever we have. So we found that the option 2 was is better, and we have started focusing on the marketing side policies. Basically, which means we are going to value add or process our commodities and launch it into the markets. So the way forward, we have devised policies to create value chain, starting from production, assisting the farmers in production, and the government will intervene in the post-harvest management activities. So that includes processing, branding, and marketing. And for this purpose, we have identified a few crops, which are high-value crops. As I told you, we can produce any commodity, cereals, millets, but we have very little area under those commodities. So those, and most of them are for consumptive use. Most of them get consumed within the state, and very little is available for surplus. So we identified only a few crops, which are spices like ginger, turmeric, large cardamom, and the pseudo-cereal buckwheat. And currently we have added 2 crops to the list. One is the Sikkim orange and sweet peas. We will be producing them in surplus, and this is available for post-harvest for processing for the markets. For the production part, we have organized the farmers into farmers producers organizations, where currently we have about 15 such organizations which can produce certified commodities. And we are providing assistance for them to create facilities for processing at their level and at the central level. We have a mega project coming up which can produce about 5.5 tons per hour. And we have ideas to launch into the domestic as well as international market, so that we capture the value of organic value. We are planning to cultivate in clusters, and we have identified clusters. We are growing crops in clusters, and buckwheat currently is under 3,000 hectares, large cardamom in 22,000 hectares, ginger about 50,000 hectares, turmeric 5,000 hectares. And we can produce sufficient surplus for the processing. And this is a snapshot of the requirements, organic requirements for business. Any commodity has to be certified as per the standards into which, because if a commodity has to be exported to a particular country, it has to be certified as per their standards. For instance, if we have to send a commodity to the United States, it has to be certified as per the United States Department of Agriculture standards, which is called NOP. And having certified under one standard, it cannot be pushed into another country. So we need to certify, we need to work backwards and know the market, know the destination, and then certify accordingly. Currently, we have certification as per the EU standards, which means that we can send the commodities of Sikkim only to the European Union. We cannot send our commodity to the United States or Australia or Canada. So if I have to send my commodity to Japan, I have to certify it as per the Japanese standards or JAS. This is a problem in organic business because there is no universal equivalency. Certification under Canadian standards will not take the commodity to Japan. So this is an issue, it's a global issue. It is being discussed, however there is no solution to it. So we need to know the destination of the market and then certify accordingly. And our analysis was based on the markets also, the focus markets. So the organic markets in the world are only the top. I have listed only the top 5 countries. One is the United States, European Union, Canada, Great Britain, and Switzerland. So these are the top 5 countries that import organic commodities from India. So our commodities will go to these countries. We are planning to process the commodities and market it to these countries. And the form in which they go out are in the processed forms. So that is where we have shifted our focus. We are not sending fresh commodities, though there is a market for the fresh commodities. We will be adding value to the commodities. So this is where the potential lies for Sikkim. And we also grow spices and condiments which can in surplus. So there is a huge potential. When we see the processed food market, we can process our spices and market it to the other countries. So these are the 4 commodities. Our idea is to not just produce but value add or process them and then package it as per the organic standards and market it to the world. So this is in short. And this is where I would like to seek your intervention to engage all the business houses with our farmers to intervene in the process of processing and value addition. And you are all most welcome. And thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Anbalanan, for your insights. Ladies and gentlemen, we would now like to hear from the private sector on their perspectives on the core sectors. Starting with the pharmaceutical sector, I would like to invite Dr. A.H. Khan, Senior Vice President, Corporate Relations, India, Regulatory Affairs and Corporate Social Responsibility, Sun Pharmaceuticals Industries Limited, for his presentation.
Shri M.L. Srivastava and all the senior officers of Sikkim government and Government of India and honorable delegates of G20 and B20, very good afternoon to all of you. Since I represent pharmaceutical industry, and the pharmaceutical industry has been one of the significant economical driver for the country, and the way this industry has progressed from 70 onwards, the growth has been very phenomenal. This is the Indian pharmaceutical industry. Actually, if you look at almost 20% of the world's pharmaceutical need is being met by India. Especially in the generic market, we cater to almost 20% of the need. We are the third largest producer in the world, and we are also a creator of about 2.7 million jobs for the country. And our annual turnover is around $50 billion US. Some of the most significant achievement of the pharmaceutical industries is, if we take a baseline of 1990, and there was a study conducted treating the baseline from 1990 to 2016, the affordability and the availability of Indian medicines have been able to reduce the disease burden in the country by 36%. So this has been a very significant achievement. India has been able to eradicate 100% polio through its all indigenously manufactured vaccine. So all the vaccines used in the polio eradication were all made in India. And we are also meeting the 60% of vaccine demand across the world. In US, one out of 3 pill which is being consumed in US is made out of India. If we see our journey, how pharmaceutical industry has evolved, in pre-1970, I think almost everything we were dependent on import. But from 1970, today we are exporting to about 220 countries. And we are world's most reliable supplier of pharmaceuticals even during the crisis period of COVID. The very unprecedented human crisis which all of us faced, the entire world faced, was about COVID. So India also was not an exception to it. We had almost 45 million COVID cases in India, and we have been able to create our own vaccine, and so far I think we have administered about 2.1 billion doses of vaccine manufactured in India. During the COVID period, I think that was one of the major achievement of pharmaceutical industry, that during the crisis of COVID, there has been no shortage of drugs. Even we continue to supply the drugs like hydroxychloroquine, the drugs like methylprednisolone. All those drugs continue to be supplied not only to within the country, but we continue to serve the other countries in terms of supplies. And lot of appreciation to the state governments, which were very much helpful in making our manufacturing plants run 24/7, because if the manufacturing sites would not have been able to produce, naturally there would have been shortage of supplies of drugs. I think some of the major initiatives taken by the government are very, very laudable, very appreciable, and one of the very important initiative, which is in fact driven by the Prime Minister himself, is the attaining self-reliance in the field of basically API and key starting materials. Keeping in mind achieving the self-reliance of the country, the government of India has announced the production-linked scheme, and this scheme we are very confident that will definitely make us self-reliant in terms of meeting our demand of API and other things. Innovation is another very important agenda on the government. The government is very seriously thinking on how we